Welcome back to a timey-wimey pod where we watch every episode of Doctor Who from 2005 onwards. My name's Rebecca.
I'm Haley.
Today we are discussing Parting of the Ways, Series 1, Episode 13, the final episode of Series 1, and the final episode with Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor. How are we feeling?
Emotional, not ready. We've already procrastinated starting this episode because there's so much to say, but at the same time, this episode is so emotional for the both of us, especially the end. But it is also, it's part of my favorite two-parter of Doctor Who, like ever. And I love talking about this episode, but there's just so much, and I can't believe like we're already here talking about it. There's just a lot of nostalgia too.
And for both of us, he's our first doctor, and you never forget your
Yeah.
first doctor. And we both went into Doctor Who very blind. I
Yeah.
knew nothing when starting the show. So when little 13-year-old me got to this episode, oh my gosh, had me sobbing the first time I watched this.
Did you warn me about regeneration? I can't remember.
I don't think I did because I think it's just you just got to go in blind.
Yeah, I don't think you did either. You might have said the word like he regenerates, but I had no clue what that
Yeah.
was. And I remember seeing like David Tennant and Matt Smith like pictures of
Mhm.
them, but I didn't understand how they would come
Me
into
too.
Doctor
And I was
Who.
like, I don't
And
know how Matt Smith is going to get here, but okay.
yeah. And so when the regeneration happened, I was in so much shock. I was
Mhm.
paralyzed. I was sobbing.
I went through
It was
all the emotions of
such
grief.
it was such an emotional experience at 13. Like it was so
Yes.
emotional.
Cuz now when regenerations happen, we all know going into the episode. But when I watched this, I had no idea. I had no idea it was
Yeah.
going to end with him leaving forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, like we had no clue and it just left so much up in the air and it's just such a change, especially when you're watching Doctor Who for the first time and you've watched the entire first series and you're attached to the ninth Doctor, and to have him taken away from you
It's
is painful.
traumatic. Yeah.
It is traumatic. Yeah. So should we just get into this episode?
Are you ready for some fantastic facts?
Yes, I am.
Alrighty. So, David Tennant's portion of this episode was filmed much later on, after Billy had filmed her part of the regeneration scene. So, when David
Oh,
filmed this, he was acting off of like a piece of tape that matched where Billy's eyeline was.
he's very talented.
This is the first regeneration that that we saw the doctor standing up. In classic Who, he was always laying down, kind of in a vulnerable state with regeneration. But Russell T Davies, he wanted to kind of change that, so he had the doctor standing up, and I really like that move, and I'm glad that's kind of become the new precedent.
I do like that president.
There's a clip in this episode that is later used in the Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary. Do you know what clip it is?
Yep, it is the clip of Nine regenerating.
No.
What?
That's not so. Okay, if you haven't seen the 50th, fast forward like a minute. During the scene where all the doctors come in to save Gallifrey, we see every doctor 1 through
Mm-hmm.
13. There's a clip of 9 they use from this episode, and he says, "For my next trick," and that clip is taken from the beginning of the episode when they're saving Rose. When the doctor and Jack are in the
Oh,
TARDIS, and the doctor's like, "For my next trick," and then they just took that quick like 2-second scene and put it in the 50th.
what the heck? I'm having a real like Mandela effect moment. I don't know why I thought it was the regeneration scene.
Well, I don't know if they ever cleared that up, but in the 50th, when the War Doctor is regenerating, you can kind of see like the essence of Christopher Eccleston's face. Obviously, he wasn't in
Yeah.
it. So I don't know what kind of TV show magic they did, but I don't know if they ever talked about that.
I think that's probably yeah, that's honestly probably why I got it confused.
Yeah. And then my last fantastic fact, a fake ending was shot for this episode because they originally were trying to keep the regeneration a secret. Unfortunately, that got leaked after like Rose aired, which is insane. But they shot a fake ending that would have had Nine and Rose going off to Barcelona, and Nine would have like scanned Rose, and then a screen in the TARDIS would have said life form dying. So it would have like showed Rose dying basically. And that was the fake ending. And they filmed it and everything, but it's never been released, which is kind of crazy.
Okay, I knew that they filmed like a fake ending to hopefully prevent leaks. I did know that fact. I didn't know what it entailed, and now I want that clip, even though it's
I want that
obviously
clip
not
too.
canon.
Russell, give it. Ooh, the 20th. Oh no, that's next year. Release
Yeah.
it for the 20th. Russell,
Please, Russell, please.
please.
Imagine it's just on someone's hard drive randomly. They don't work on Doctor Who anymore. It's just like this random person, and it's on their hard drive after all these years.
We need to find it. It's I don't understand why they didn't put it on the DVDs or anything.
I really want to see it now.
Me too. All right, are we ready to jump into the episode?
Yes. Yes, I am.
I love the way this episode begins. It picks right off of Bad Wolf, and they are going to go save Rose from the Dalek fleet. And I just love them saving her. It's so great. And I love when she is back in the TARDIS. Jack says, "Welcome home," and they all hug. And it's a great scene.
You are so right. It is such a great scene, and I love how, like, even when the Daleks are basically, like, telling Rose, like, "Tell us, tell us, tell us," over and
Yeah.
over again, like, what the Doctor's plans are, what he's gonna do, and Rose is like, "Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you, like, how stupid
Mhm.
do you think I am?" And I always find it wild that the Doctor lands on a Dalek fleet in his TARDIS to save Rose. Like, the whole he was unhinged for that, and
He
I
really
love
was.
it. And the extrapolator from Boomtown comes into play for this.
Oh
I
yeah.
never put that together until watching this episode, but the extrapolator from Boomtown, at least I'm assuming it's the same one, they use in the TARDIS to create a force field so that they wouldn't be hit by any of the missiles, which I also think it's hilarious that the Daleks thought they girl boss so hard to get the Doctor on their ship that they could exterminate him. Like, they really thought he wouldn't have some force field or
They thought they
protection.
had it. They thought they got it figured out.
Yeah, it's kind of like, guys, for being so lethal, you can be really dumb.
So after they reunite with Rose, we get to meet the Emperor of the Daleks. What do you think of the Emperor?
He's creepy.
I agree. I if we're talking about Dalek villains, I prefer a certain other Dalek villain to the Emperor, but this
Same.
is interesting too.
Because this is the only episode we get of the Emperor Dalek.
Doesn't he show up in Journey's End?
No, that's Stavros, isn't it?
There's another
Or maybe
Dalek. Maybe I'm misremembering. I don't know. Sorry guys. But yeah, I it's he's there.
he's there and he's kind of annoying.
I do love the idea that the Daleks have gone insane. One, from being in hiding for so long, and also two, that they are, because they barely survived, they've had to become like mutant Daleks, half human, half Dalek. And because that's so terrible for Daleks, it's making them insane. So they hate their own existence. So I find that idea really interesting.
Yeah, Nine even says, driven mad by your own flesh, the stink of humanity, you hate your own existence, and that makes them more deadly than ever.
Hmm.
So it's just like such like a terrifying thought. Honestly, in my opinion, this episode is probably one of a few episodes where Daleks I feel are really scary. Like
Oh,
really,
definitely.
really scary. Because
Yeah.
I feel like in New Who there are and have been some Dalek episodes that don't hit to that level,
Mhm.
but this episode, it's kind of crazy. And like when Nine and Jack and Rose kind of realize the gravity of the situation, like when the Emperor Dalek reveals himself, Nine starts talking about how in the Time War, his people were destroyed and they took the Daleks with them. And Nine says, I almost thought it was all worth it. And now it turns out they died for nothing,
Ugh.
which the way this was acted out is so well done. And this whole line and exchange is so painful. Like the thought of like any of this is painful that he had gotten to a point where he thought it was almost worth it
Yeah,
just to like have these lethal foes. Like, oh my gosh.
it's so painful, and I think that ends up impacting decisions he makes later on in the episode. But another great performance we get in the scene after they go back inside the TARDIS, there's this great short moment where you can hear the Daleks from outside yelling and exterminate, and the doctor just has his head against the TARDIS doors, and the camera like zooms in on his face. And that small moment, it's so good. It's very simple, but his just like face, his head against the doors, and the screaming Daleks outside, so well done.
A moment I did want to mention that I glossed over, but that I have in my notes is that Nine, in talking to the Daleks, tells them, doesn't it just burn when you face me after he references he's the oncoming storm? Am I correct in that this is the first mention of the oncoming storm in New Who?
It is the I believe I read that he's referred to as the oncoming storm in some of the novels. But this is definitely the
Okay.
first New Who mention.
Okay. Yeah. I thought that was interesting because that's a phrase we end up hearing quite a bit later on.
Definitely. And I like that. I know it's weird to be like, "Oh yeah," but that's I don't know. I think they should bring that back.
Do you think Russell will bring that back with the new season?
No. I don't know if it's Shooty's vibe.
Yeah, I don't know. Although, I don't know. We'll
We'll
see.
see in a few weeks.
I know. Plus, tomorrow for us, a couple weeks ago for you guys, we get the trailer
Oh
for the
yeah.
new season. So that's exciting. But coming back to the episode about the Ninth Doctor, who's like, many doctors before the 15th even
Oh
appears.
yes.
Once they get back to Satellite 5, Linda with a Y is there. She's like, because the doctor wanted Jack to evacuate everyone, and she's like, I'm not going anywhere without the doctor. And I always find it comical that Rose is a little threatened by
Her
Linda with a
face
Y
is
in this
so funny.
moment. She's like, okay,
Mhm.
so I was on the weakest link and thought I was being killed, and you were with her? Like, what?
Yeah,
It's just really funny. It's really funny to see the interaction between her and the doctor.
definitely. And it's in this scene where they decide they are going to build a delta wave to essentially wipe out all the Daleks. Except that takes about 3 days to do, and the Daleks are 20 minutes away. And then they we kind of have Jack, the doctor, and Rose kind of say goodbye because Jack is gonna go recruit people downstairs. He's gonna help try to fight off the Daleks while the Doctor and Rose work on the Delta Wave.
Yeah, and this whole scene, this whole interaction is so sad because Jack is one of those characters. If there's a will, there's a way. If there's a loophole, he's going to take it and believe it. But for him, of all people, to say goodbye means he knows there's little to no hope. Especially saying goodbye to Rose and the doctor, and he literally tells Nine, "I wish I never met you. I was better off a coward." And then he tells Rose, "You're worth
You were
fighting for."
worth fighting for.
Which,
And
first
it,
off, such a power move, dude.
I
And
know.
like the whole scene is so sad. And then That's literally the last time
I know.
they have, like, a full true interaction.
It really is like I mean, these 3, the way they are now, are never back together again, and it always breaks my heart because they are the original TARDIS trio, and I
They
love them to
are.
death, and it's never we never see them like this ever again, and it's I can't talk about it.
I can't talk about it, but what I can talk about is how, with the 100 remaining people on Satellite 5 that weren't able to be evacuated, Roderick is one of them, and all he wants is his money
Roderick.
still. We talked about sorry, I'm getting a little passionate about this. We talked about him a little bit in last week's episode. But you mean to tell me a whole satellite is evacuated and all you care about is money?
And he refuses to believe. He's like, "The Daleks aren't real. They've been gone for
Yeah.
centuries." Like, "Sir, why would we be lying about this?"
Exactly. Jack is literally so annoyed at this man, and it's just wild. It's just wild, that's all he's concerned about.
Yeah, I do love the speech that Jack gives to everyone downstairs, and he's like, "If you hear us dying up there," like, that's a great speech when he tries to, like, get people to help him. So something I wanna ask you, when in this episode the doctor sends Rose home, when do you think he decided to do that? Because watching this, I wondered, I think it's the moment he asked Rose to help him with the Delta wave, like before they all split up. I think in that moment, he knew what he was going to do.
I have a bit of a different take. For me, I think that was probably he probably had 2 plans in his head. Plan A was to get Rose out of there and get her home. Plan B was to keep her and have her help.
Hmm.
I think he was favoring plan A, but when the computer alerted that the delta wave wasn't gonna be ready in time and that it wasn't gonna do what it needed to do, there's also the factor that, like, it will wipe out every living thing in existence, including the Earth.
Hmm.
I think in that moment is when he put his plan A to action
I think you're right.
and really decided that he was gonna send her home, and it is okay, this entire scene, this music, this silence, Nine getting Rose into the TARDIS, thinking she's gonna help him telling her she's brilliant for thinking of that, and
Oh,
to hold something down in the TARDIS and he'll just run out and be back in. But then he doesn't. He turns around and he sends her home, and it's just silent. And the pain on his face,
the
and
pain,
then
it's so
Rose.
good. I love seeing him just run out and then pause and the sad turnaround and the sonic. Oh, it's so painful.
Emergency Program 1. Emergency Program 1 being like, "Rose, this is Emergency Program 1. If you're seeing this, it means that I am in fatal danger and that if an enemy were to get a hold of the TARDIS, it would be bad for everyone. So, Rose, this is what I need you to do. Leave the TARDIS on the street. No one's gonna notice it. Let the TARDIS die. And if you want to remember me, you will live a fantastic life." Or no, it's
Have a good
yeah,
life.
have a good
Do
life.
that
Do
for
that
me,
for me,
Rose.
Rose.
Have a good life.
Have a
Okay.
fantastic life. Russell, who hurt you? Who hurt you to write this painful and this angsty?
Okay, that moment when he says that, because she's kind of watching him from the side, and then he turns to face her. What do you make of that? What is happening there?
What do you mean?
Like, how does he turn to face her? Is that like him live? Is that the hologram? Like, what is
Oh,
that?
oh, oh. I thought you meant when he was sending her off, and I'm like, what do you mean
No.
he was watching the TARDIS go off? Um, I think more than anything, it's because the TARDIS is telepathic, and the
Mm,
TARDIS, realized
yeah.
Rose went over there, and so she made the hologram look to her. I don't know. I
Fair
can't.
enough. I don't have an
Yeah.
answer either. Okay, we have to talk about the scene right before this when they're working on the Delta Wave and she's like, "Couldn't you just go back in time?" And he's like, "No." And then I love when Nine says, "But you could ask and we could just leave and run away." And she's like, "Well, you would never do that." And he says, "Well, you could ask." And I think that moment just perfectly sums up their relationship and why these two characters work so well. She's not trying to find ways to run away, to survive, to live. She's just she's not going to give up. She's not going to back down. And she knows he's not going to do that. And it sums them up perfectly. It works so well and I love them. And then watching Rose watch the hologram is so painful and her saying, "You can't do that to me." And her yelling to take me back. Oh, it kills me every time.
It kills me every time. There is something I wanna say, but I'm gonna refrain for future episodes' sake. It's just a really painful
Yeah.
reminder.
It's yeah. He loved her so much that he just had to send her away because even if he had to kill everyone, he had to make sure Rose was safe. And it breaks my heart.
Can we just talk about the conversation between Jack and the doctor, where Jack is asking where Rose is, and the doctor tells him he sent her home, and Jack, like, knowing Rose is safe, tells Nine to keep working and that he never doubted Nine and
Never
never
doubted
will.
him, never will. Ugh.
Never will. And, ugh, the moment when the Dalek Emperor just, like, pops up on the screen randomly
I know.
and, like, says the truth about the Delta Wave, and Nine tells Jack saying, "Do you see, Jack?" Or he says, "The whole universe is in danger. If I let you live. Do you see, Jack? That's the decision I've got to make. Every living thing. Die as a human or live as a Dalek." Oof. Like,
Oof.
that dilemma?
And it's so heartbreaking because he's having to make the same decision that he did during the Time War all over again.
Oh my gosh, you're so right.
And then we go back to Earth, and Rose is reunited with her mom and Mickey, and they go to this little restaurant, cafe, whatever you want to call it. And I love her little dramatic breakdown. Billy Billy is fantastic always, especially in this scene. I love when Jackie says, "I've had a lot of problems with that man, but right now I love him because he sent you back to me. He sent you home. He did the right thing." And Rose is just saying, "I can't go back to this. I can't do this. He showed me a better life." And she's not just talking about the aliens and the planets. She tells them that he showed her a better way of living her life, to say no, to not back down, to fight for what's right. And Billy just she makes does this scene so well. It always gets me really emotional. It breaks my heart. I'm gonna keep saying that, but it does.
It's the only way to describe it. Like, there's no other words other than it's just heartbreaking and so emotional to watch and to listen to, and I do like that Jackie has that line.
Hmm.
However, she is way too dismissive of Rose, basically telling Rose like, it literally just happened for Rose, her being sent home from the doctor, and Jackie's like,
Yeah.
"Well, you can get a job," and Mickey's like, "You can live your life," and I'm like, "Guys, maybe give her a hug."
She
Especially Mickey.
literally.
Mickey is so bad. He's worse than he has been because he's like, "Why? Because you're so much better than us," in response
Oh,
to
I
her
know.
saying she doesn't want to be there. She wants to be with the doctor. And it's just like, read the room, Mickey. Read the room. It's not just about you.
Like the people she loves, her friends, Jack and the doctor, they're thousands of years in the future dying and she can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And Mickey's like, "Well, you need to just live." Like, okay, Mickey. Like, that's going to solve all emotions. and all of Rose's heartbreak and difficulties. Like, live your life. Give me a break.
I know.
But in that moment, Rose like is back by the TARDIS and all around her, she starts seeing Bad Wolf everywhere. Okay, I'm sorry. Every time this scene gags me. Every single time.
And once again, she puts it together. She's able to figure out it's a link. It means I can get back to
Yeah.
him. She's able to understand the message. And it's just it's so good. Also, can we talk about how this is totally a crazy paradox, like chicken or the egg? What came first? But I love it.
I love it so much. Your classic bootstrap paradox.
Yeah, exactly. There is one moment in the TARDIS where Rose says that there's nothing left for her on Earth, which is a little cold considering Mickey is right there and she does
Yeah.
still have her mom. But I get what she's feeling, you know? All she's focused on is trying to go back and trying to help Jack and the Doctor escape.
I think too is that she didn't necessarily mean that like Mickey and her mom didn't mean anything.
Of course
It's
not.
just that traveling with the doctor was her life. Like
Definitely.
in her speech, she mentions like why, and so it definitely is a little cold and could have been said a little bit better, but it's understandable in the circumstances to kind of get the message across that no, Mickey, I'm not going to stay on Earth for you. Sorry.
Yeah. And then they try to open up the TARDIS with Mickey's car and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then we get this great scene between Jackie and Rose in the TARDIS. And again, Billy Piper is acting all the acting. She's so good in this scene because she gets to tell Jackie that she met her father who died when she was a
Yeah.
baby. And she says, remember the girl that was with him? It was me. And Jackie's like, "Ugh," it's such a good scene. They both perform it so well.
So well. And uh, here we go. I'm about to start my rant. I've been teasing it to Rebecca for a hot minute
I'm
today.
ready.
Okay. So in Boomtown, Nine tells Rose to not look into the heart of the TARDIS because even he doesn't know how strong it is. Rose knew that. She knew she could die. She knew she was risking everything, and she did it anyway. But Nine risked everything but her. He couldn't risk everything.
Oh,
I mean, because he couldn't risk her. He could risk everything else, just not her. And I feel like this episode is where the depth of their love for each other is realized. And I don't mean like a necessarily a romantic love or platonic love, but just like a deep love and appreciation for being in each other's life.
definitely. These two prove to each other that they are willing to do anything for each other. They are willing to die for each other. They are willing to
Hmm.
look into the time vortex for each other and do impossible things and risk everything. And oh my gosh, these two, once again, I have to say it, break my heart. They break my heart.
Every time. Every time they break my heart. And I just, oh my gosh. And then, before you know it, Jackie comes with the truck to help them, and they open the heart of the TARDIS. It opens up, and the heart of the TARDIS takes charge, closes the TARDIS doors, and then the TARDIS. I love the visual of like the heart of the TARDIS, by the way, like all
Me
the light
too.
and going into Rose's eyes. And
Yes, I love her looking at. Oh, it's such a good visual.
it's so good. And then Rose and the TARDIS are on the way to Satellite 5. And before we get into one of the best parts of this entire two-parter, in my humble opinion,
Hmm.
we do need to take a moment and discuss everything that's gone down back on Satellite 5 in the
Yes.
meantime. Because the Daleks have started to invade.
Yes. Also, I just have to say I love how Jackie comes around and is like, "You're right. This is exactly what your dad would do." And she gets the
Yeah.
truck. And fun fact,
Such a cute moment.
the actress who plays Jackie, when she pulls up with the truck, she's sitting on someone's lap who's actually driving the truck.
That's so funny.
I know. But yeah, a lot's going down on Satellite 5.
Yeah, let's see. Jack has helped some people be armed with guns, which, like every episode, I know they say aim for the eye stalk. That's what'll get him. But still, in every Dalek episode with people with guns, it doesn't matter. They don't work ever. So, like, what's the
Yeah,
point?
I
Like, I
know.
guess they can't be completely defenseless, but it's just kind of like, what's the point?
Oh, that one woman who like screamed at Jack, like, "You lied to me. You told me."
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
heartbreaking.
It's so sad. And it's just like such a difficult moment to
Yeah.
watch. And then that one lady and that guy who were kind of flirty and bad wolf,
No.
ugh, talking about how they're gonna go for a drink after all of this is over,
And
only
that he's only there because she is and he wanted to follow
yeah,
her.
which if a man said that and that alone to me, I'm instantly in love with you. So for them to both be killed after that, when they could have
Ugh,
had a wonderful, beautiful love story and life together is so tragic.
I know. And then we get one of the saddest side character deaths in the show. Linda with a Y, she's trying to keep eye and she sees the Daleks coming through the door and then she turns around and they're out the window and they blow out it's so heartbreaking.
Can we talk about how strong and how brave she is through the whole thing? She doesn't scream until the very end as like anyone would naturally do, but she was fearful, but she was so brave. And she was like, "Yeah, I'll be the lookout." And it's just she's so sweet and Linda with Y. She could have had a wonderful future.
It's yeah. And we see Jack trying to fight off the Daleks. Literally, he becomes the last man standing. He uses
Mhm.
everything that he can down to his final bullet, and then they kill him.
And it gets me every time.
It
Obviously, we
does.
know he's alive at the end of this episode, but it's still for me.
And it's so sad because it is kind of like
Yeah.
a death for him in some ways. His life completely changes after this.
Yeah, his life is never the same.
Yeah. Then we have one of my favorite Ninth Doctor moments. The Delta Wave is ready. The Doctor can do it. He can wipe out the Daleks, but the Earth will be wiped off too. And the Emperor says, "So, what is it going to be? Are you going to be a coward or a killer?" And Nine is about to do it. And then he says, "Coward, any day." And that is just him just deciding not to do it, accepting that, okay, they're going to kill him, but he changes his mind. He's not going to do it. He's not going to repeat the same mistakes as the Time War because it's like it would be a complete genocide of not just of Daleks and humans, and him just deciding not to do it and is such a huge moment for this character. And we see everything, we just see his whole arc come together here, and I love it.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, and I we see 9 literally at his end. He
Mhm.
has been running from the time where this whole season. He has been running from the reality of his people being gone this whole time. He discovered and realized the Daleks were alive and well and
Yeah.
were murdering people yet again while his people are still gone. He had to send Rose home to save her because he knew he had to save her from the Daleks, and
He
yet he
realized
can't do it.
wiping
He can't kill the Daleks.
he realized wiping out his people wasn't even worth it because the Daleks just came back the same, even stronger, and
Mhm.
he has the chance to wipe them out for good, and he decides it's just not worth it. So, coward any day. It's a great moment. And right as Nine is accepting his death, knowing that the Daleks are planning on killing him, the TARDIS comes back and the doors open and we finally get to meet the bad wolf.
I want to scream because I am so excited to talk about this and there's so much to say. And when I tell you I have so many notes, you don't even know.
First off, Billy looks incredible. The lights, her voice, like the tears and the makeup running, like it looks so good. And she's able to just it's this is one of the best television moments ever of her as Bad Wolf. She just turns the Daleks into dust.
Chills every time. Literal chills. And hearing her say, I'm the bad wolf. I create myself. I take the words and scatter them in time and space. A message to leave myself here. And then she says, I want you safe,
I
my
want
doctor.
you safe. Oh. I love when she's talking to the emperor and says, "You are tiny." Like, makes me laugh every time.
Oh
And
my
she
gosh, it's the
says,
best.
"I bring death and I bring life." And we see Jack wakes up, and that's all we get in that quick moment. We just see him kind of wake up again.
Yeah, and she starts telling the doctor after turning every Dalek into dust that, how can I let go of this? I bring life. And Nine tells her it's wrong and she can't control life and death. And he is so upset. He's telling her it's going to kill her and it's all his fault, which so painful.
So painful. But then the music swells and he stands up and he realizes for just a short moment in time he's not alone. She sees the universe the way he does. It's like
Hmm.
back in the first episode saying the way the world spins he can feel it, and for a brief moment in time he's not alone in that. She can see everything he does, she can see more than he does. And then every line, like, I have so many lines of dialogue written in my notes because it's all just so good. And she just says, "My head." And he says, "Come here." It
I
hurts.
think you need a doctor. Come here. I think you need a doctor. I'm sorry, what?
What?
You included
When
this why?
when 13-year-old, I love that line. I don't care if it's cheesy, it's my favorite.
It's
Um
the best line ever.
13-year-old me was gagged, screaming, like crying, throwing up, like I did not know what was going on, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, like what is happening?" But this is incredible. Also very
It's what
unexpected.
so unexpected. Like that's the last thing you would expect in 9. Like the 10th Doctor, the 11th Doctor, maybe even the 12th Doctor. The ninth, last thing you would ever expect. And obviously we didn't have the future doctors before this, so I don't
Yes.
know why I use them as an example. But this whole line, talking about this now, we're both now 23, 10 years later, gross, but is one thing. But watching it when you're 13 is a whole nother experience that
Yeah.
never leaves you. It just doesn't.
I wrote
And so,
I
what?
wrote in my notes that that kiss changed my life. To change 13-year-old me's life. I wrote that last night. A little dramatic, but okay.
It's not a lie.
No.
Because, like, the visuals,
It's
the
so the music.
scene, the kiss is so beautiful, like, it's just and just, like, the light going from Rose's eyes to the doctor's eyes,
Cause he takes the
and
time vortex out of her, saving
yeah,
her.
yeah, which, like, at the time, he could have guessed it would cause him to regenerate, but he didn't know what would happen,
No.
and he did it anyway because she needed a doctor.
She needed a doctor. And then he carries her back to the TARDIS and they take off. And this is where we see Jack getting left behind.
Criminal.
I hate that
Criminal.
they leave him behind. I understand why they had to, and it makes sense for the story, but I hate that he gets left behind.
I do too. Like, it's so bad. And we later learn later in the series, I know we're spoiling something, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But Jack finds out the doctor did that on purpose.
I know. Like, which I'm also like, that always bugs me, like, he knew
Same.
in that moment Jack was immortal. How did he know? He didn't even see Jack. But okay, I guess we'll go with it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, we spoiled that too, but it guys,
You know, if you're listening to
you
it,
know,
this, you know,
you know.
you know.
Yeah. I love the moment where when Rose wakes up and she can't remember what happened.
She
She's
doesn't
like, "What
remember
happened?"
any of this.
No, which is so tragic. But the 9 is like, "I sang a song and the Daleks ran away." That is not the joke you think it is.
And she's like, all I remember is this music. Ugh.
Yeah, and this light, and I've always wondered, why didn't the doctor outright say it? Like,
I
say what
know.
went down? And I realized I think I came to the realization last night watching this episode.
Tell me.
He could not live with the fact that if he were to tell Rose everything that happened, he would know she would blame herself for him having to regenerate.
I agree. He doesn't, because the doctor basically has to die. This version of the doctor has to die to save her. And he doesn't want her to live with that.
And I also think he doesn't want to tell her that she destroyed all the Daleks, at least in this moment.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
you never forget your first doctor, your first regeneration, your first time watching it, all of your
I
feelings and emotions.
I have something controversial to say.
What?
I think this is the best regeneration in the
I'm
show
so
so
glad you
far
said that because I was gonna say that.
because it's so good. He dies saving Rose. He goes out on his own terms. His final lines,
Mhm.
we're going to dissect, don't worry, are just so good. And it's not David's regeneration, we'll get to it. I have issues with it. But that one is just so sad and bitter, and 11's is good, and but this one is the best. This sorry, I'm moving my mic too much. This one is just the best. And it's short and simple, but it's so sweet. And he's dying for
So
love.
sweet.
He's dying for the woman he loves.
Hands down, in my opinion now, both of our opinions, it is the best regeneration. For a second there, I'm scared you were gonna say it was your least favorite.
Oh,
Um,
never.
yeah, I would say my ranking for regenerations would go 9, 11, 12, 10, and 13.
I would say 9, 12, 11, 10, 13.
Now my brain's short circuiting because of what happened in the 60th specials, but
I know.
we're not going
And
there
then
right
those
now.
ones,
I can't.
because I don't know how you would rank that. We're not gonna. That's a future problem.
It's a future problem we'll talk about that we have feelings on, but um back to 9. Him starting to say, "Oh Rose, I was going to take you to Barcelona, not the city, the planet."
He looks at her, and you can tell he's grieving not just like his own life and himself, but the time that they've had together and the time they were gonna have together. And he tries to make her laugh. He tries to reassure her, like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
change. I don't know what's gonna happen. And we don't really see him do that with future companions when they see the doctor regenerate. He tries to be there for Rose, and he tries to make her laugh and make it easy, and he doesn't let her know it's her fault. He just says, I absorbed the time vortex. No one's supposed to do that. He doesn't tell her what's going on.
And just like even when he's explaining this to her, she's like, "I think you're going mad." It's just so heartbreaking in its own way too,
Hmm.
because she doesn't realize the change that's about to occur and there's just oh my
She
gosh, there's
doesn't
so
know that
much.
this is their last moment. Like, of course, it's not the last moments with her and the doctor, but it's her last moments with her first doctor and the person she's come to know and care about. And everything's going to change, and it ends up fine, and things change in a great way. but it's still a change, and it's still kind of a death of this person that she cares about.
And then him saying, "Rose, before I go, I just want to tell you, you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I.
And
So much
you
pain.
were fantastic.
You were fantastic, Christopher Eccleston, slash the ninth doctor, slash one of the best doctors."
Yes. No, and those final lines are a big reason of why I love this regeneration so much. Like, you were fantastic, Rose, and you know what? So was I. Like, it's an appreciation of her, of the time they've had together, and also
Yeah.
him being able to be like, you know what? I did do good. Like, I it's so good. This doctor was born out of war, and he ended up dying for love. This is the doctor, but more than anyone else, that fell in love with Rose, and he got to have such a great journey. And in these short 13 episodes, we saw him go from someone cold and grieving to someone who was choosing life and in love, and he died saving Rose, and I'll never move on.
I will never move on. I will forever be sitting right where you left me. I just
Mhm.
like the chokehold this will always have on me is unreal. Like it just, I will never not have this be my Roman Empire. Do you have something to say, or is it okay if I say this?
I just want to say I love the like small smile Rose gives him after he says, and so was I. Like, her little smile,
Yeah.
like, it's just so sweet.
And then all of a sudden, there's this light coming out of Nine's head and arms, and
Regeneration
suddenly,
energy.
regeneration energy, and we see none other than David Tennant himself.
Ugh,
If
I
you guys thought
do.
we were annoying about 9, just wait for the next
Oh, yeah.
3 series we're talking about.
Because 9 is my first doctor, and in many ways, like, such a special place in my heart compared to all the other
Mhm.
doctors, but 10 is my doctor.
10 is my doctor as well.
Yeah.
He always will be.
Yeah.
Um,
I always forget how short his scene is in the episode. He's just like,
Me
"New
too.
teeth. Oh, weird." Anyways, Barcelona.
I love how he just, like, starts talking Barcelona
I
like
know. He's like,
nothing's
"Okay,
changed.
moving on."
It's an iconic, appearance of a new doctor, and I was definitely in awe, in shock, in pain watching this
Oh,
for the first time.
I again watching this for the first time, all the emotions of grief, anger, denial, bargaining, all the emotions, but we came to accept it. Maybe.
We did. We did. However, last night, I'm going to now read you an entry into this notes, which kind of reads more like a diary entry than actual notes, guys. This was how I was feeling right after 9 regenerated. This is what I said. 9 is gone forever, just like that. I wasn't ready. I'm never ready. I want another season with him, or mini episodes, or an in between season. Literally, one of the best doctors, and that's his hint on the show.
No, it's so unfair. And again, I totally understand Christopher Eccleston leaving and not coming back. Team Chris. Chris, you are famous to me always and fantastic to me always. And it's
Absolutely.
because I love you is why I'm so sad that
Yeah.
we never see you again. But yeah, I do always. I'm like, what if there was just one more Chris and Billy season and then a
I
David and
know.
Billy season? Like,
Ugh. So, I do have 2 questions for you
I'm ready.
before we get to the review. So, with Bad Wolf herself bringing Jack back to life, do you think she also brought back to life The 100 people that died in Satellite 5.
Oh, never thought about that, but I don't think so. I think we would know somehow if all those people were also alive, and I think it's because of the her knowing Jack and the TARDIS's telepathic connection that she was able to save him. Also, spoilers again for later on, so just fast forward 2 minutes, but it drives me insane that Rose and Jack never get to talk about this. They never get to have a conversation of being like, hey girl, you made me immortal on accident, but it's okay. They never get to have that conversation, and it makes me
No.
so upset.
It's so frustrating. Jack deserves that conversation with Rose because going
Rose deserves
from
that conversation
yeah,
too.
because turning someone immortal a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, what's
So
your
many.
next question?
Okay. What is the heart of this episode?
Mm. The heart of this episode is Rose and the Doctor and the love they have for each other and the willingness to not
Mhm.
give up on each other, to save each other, to fight for each other. They're the heart. They're my heart, and they're the heart of this episode.
Are you ready for some reviews?
Yes. If you guys don't know, each week we read some reviews from the past to hear what people thought about this episode when it first aired.
Yeah. So, Digital Spy's Jack Hogan wrote that the finale was something of an anticlimax, with the Bad Wolf resolution being a letdown and the regeneration a bit rushed and lacking in the sort of emotional tension that has been one of this series' hallmarks.
It
Tell
does
that to
happen.
13-year-old us.
Yeah. Tell that to 13-year-old me sobbing in the middle of the night in my room. Try not to wake up my whole family. Thank you very much. It does happen very fast, but they did the best they could with what they had.
They did, and even though it happens fast, it's not like some episodes where it happens too fast.
Cough. 11.
SFX gave The Parting of the Ways a score of 9 out of 10, and they called the two parter Russell Davies' finest work this season. And they also really praised the emotional moments, but they did feel that two aspects of The Parting of the Ways let the story down: the Bad Wolf resolution and the Deuce Ekmash. Oh my gosh, guys, I watched a video on YouTube on how to pronounce this. Forgot it already. I took Latin in school for many years. I should be able to pronounce this correctly, but alas, I can't.
Deus Ex Machina.
Machina. Wow, that's so embarrassing, guys. I promise I took Latin.
What do they mean by the bad wolf resolution?
I don't know.
Like, are they just upset that, like, ooh, what was bad wolf? And then it was like, Rose was bad wolf. And then she wasn't.
Okay, so the person who wrote this review said that they felt a little bit conned, a little bit cheated because of the revelation that it was some kind of message from Rose to herself. So that's
Oh. Okay.
their thought. I disagree.
I
I personally love it.
Yeah. Though I feel like if you were watching at the time, you probably were expecting the master. Like, think about all the theories we have about episodes coming out now. We're always like, oh, it's the Ronnie, it's the master. Like, I think they were all thinking the same thing even back in
Oh yeah,
2005. But
probably
you can't make me hate this. I love it.
no.
I love Rose being the bad wolf, and I think the resolution is really good because it has consequences. The Doctor has
It
to
does.
regenerate.
Yeah, it's not just like all tied up in a pretty little bow.
Hmm.
Okay, so Patrick Mulkern of Radio Times praised the episode, stating it was inventive and gripping entertainment, and for the first time, Doctor Who has a proper exhilarating season finale.
Dang.
They probably made a lot of classic Who fans mad with that review.
Yeah.
Alistair Wilkins of IO9 praised the mad energy of the two-parter, but felt the Dalek plan was convoluted and a whole bunch of seemingly important stuff is brushed aside and the rush to the Doctor's big moral dilemma. He also pointed out the story had to deal with Christopher Eccleston's abrupt departure, and as a result, there was little thematic build-up, and the regeneration feels bolted onto the rest of the story. Despite this, he ranked it the best regeneration and the third best regeneration story as of 2010. My response to that is I think having the knowledge that Chris was leaving before the series and most of the series even aired kind of already put a preconceived notion into everyone's
Definitely.
heads that no matter how it was handled, it was going to be really quick. And yes, it was quick, but I think that also had a lot to do with it, if you know what I mean.
What I like about this regeneration, on top of all the other things I've said I liked, is it's not so self indulgent with 12, 11, 10, 13's regenerations. They were in long, drawn out episodes where the doctor's like, I'm dying. I have to change. We don't have that with this episode. This, like, the doctor having to regenerate and having to die isn't the focus of this till the very end. And I really like that.
Yeah, now that you say that, I really enjoy that as well. It's not that I don't like it in other regenerations, but
Hmm.
I love that we do have a regeneration where that's not the focus at any part.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh, we made it through. We've talked all 13 episodes.
Ah, and
Wild.
next week, we will be sharing our thoughts on series one as a whole. We'll be ranking all the episodes, talking about our favorite moments, and more to just kind of celebrate series one because we love it so much. We're going to do this for every series, but
We are. We are going to have bonus episodes and we're so excited. And that will be next week. And we mentioned this in last week's episode, but we also want to mention it now in that when the new series premieres, we will take a pause on reviewing wherever we end up at, which is looking like we're going to pause right around the Christmas invasion. And then we're going to just talk about the current series.
right after the Christmas invasion. So we will get to talk about the Christmas invasion before the new series, and then we'll jump into Shooty Gatwa and Millie Gibson's first series season, whatever they're making us call it. I don't know.
It's a little confusing. They've like changed the number of the seasons and
I don't want. I can't talk about it. I'm too upset.
no, no, but there's so much for you guys to look forward to, and we can't wait for the bonus episode.
Thanks for listening to this episode, guys, and hearing us talk about Nine and Rose forever. And if you've been listening since Rose, you're a real one, and we love you.
You are. Mm-hmm.
And I hope you continue following us along as we eventually talk about series two, and we talk about the new episodes. Send all your thoughts, feelings, questions, comments, suggestions to,
Timey-wimey-pod at gmail.com
and follow us on Instagram at a timey-wimey pod.
and follow us on TikTok at a timey-wimey-pod.
And we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.